all. Chapter 7. Boxed In. From his hiding place in the bushes along the gravel road, DJ watched the two reprobates in front of him and waited to see how this was all going to shake out. He had already been to the exposed valley near his cabin. He easily located Blondie out in front, watching for him. He also determined that there was no way he could approach the cabin in daylight without revealing himself. If he was going to sneak inside to where his guns were stashed, he'd have to hide and wait for the cover of darkness. So he stayed put, waiting there for the other two to close in on his position. He would do his best to avoid them when they did and hide until it was dark. However, after maybe half an hour of waiting, and neither hearing or seeing his pursuers, he gave up on patience and doubled back to see why. He quickly found them at the second clearing. Soul Patch was guarding the road, and Skinhead was watching the field, just standing there, clearly waiting for something. It was confusing. Were they just waiting for him to walk out and hand himself over? That seemed unlikely. Were they waiting for help to arrive and try to search for him? Well, that seemed the more obvious reason. If they were, that was going to make things even more difficult. DJ decided that if that was the case, he would simply do his best to hide and wait for them to all move past. Then he would abandon his plan of vengeance for one of escape. He'd make his way back to the entrance and try to flag down a passing car. Once called, the sheriff and his men, who were no doubt by now investigating Henry's death, could be here in just a few minutes. The murderous bunch that was after him would be boxed in with nowhere to run. It would end his chance of payback, and that was unfortunate, but at least they would be caught. It was a simple plan, and it made a lot of sense. Then the two black vans pulled in and everything changed. He counted 20 men. 20 well-armed men. One of them looked like he was a mountain with legs. He wore a rust-colored beard and was clearly the person in charge of the new arrivals. He was the first to dismount and began snapping orders to the others. Having been in the Navy, DJ had multiple chances to see Navy SEAL teams. He had seen how they were equipped and how they dressed, how they carried themselves with a sense of determined invulnerability. These soldiers had that same look and swagger. Just what had he gotten himself into? Who were these guys? Specifically, who was Soul Patch? He was the one in charge, as stated earlier by Skinhead back at the parking lot. Plus, the heavy-set bearded leader of the black-clad figures seemed to address him as if he were the boss. Just didn't make sense to DJ. Soul Patch was just too young to accomplish much in life. So how could he command what appeared to be a personal military force? I mean, who was this guy? Some sort of Mark Zuckerberg of the crime world? Whoever he was, DJ was certain of one thing. His day had gone from bad to worst to next to impossible. He could not call for help because Skinhead had a cell phone. He could not get to his guns to fight back because Blondie was guarding the house. As he sat in the bushes, a van with part of the enemy force drove past on their way to reinforce the cabin. The other, with more of the same, headed back to the main road. DJ considered the situation he found himself in. The Glock he normally carried, his pocket knife, his cell phone, even the letter from Cassie's mom, had all been taken from him. He had been stripped of everything except the shirt on his back. Here he was, trapped in an impossible situation with no foreseeable way out, no escape, hunted not by simply everyday criminal thugs, but by what appeared private mercenary force. He was surrounded on all sides by high rock walls and well-equipped killers with enough firepower to end his life 100 times over. And all he had to fight back with were sticks and rocks and his own 2 hands. He was boxed in his own box canyon, and that irony was not lost on him.